Aurora, thank you so much for joining us on Wake the Alpha podcast. Welcome to the channel.
Thanks for
And
having me.
yeah, so Aurora, you are in Vancouver right now, right?
Yeah,
Vancouver Island,
Island.
which is like 9 hours, you told me, 9 hours from Paris and
9
Barcelona.
hours ahead. You're 9 hours behind.
This is the beauty of digital innovation, guys, which I'm
Exactly.
teaching innovation on the side as well. So professor of innovation. So like just always talking about AI and innovation and like it's changing the world and it's literally changing the world. I mean, we could not have this conversation 10 years ago, right? No way. To start first, I'll let you present yourself in a few minutes. Tell us who is Aurora, what are you doing? I'm not only interested in your professional career you will talk about hypnotherapy particularly, but I want to know, you were born and you are here. What's in the middle? What's in between, right? The major milestones that brought you to where you are today.
Okay, we're just gonna dive right in. So
Man,
I'm
go
from
straight.
Calgary, Alberta, and I was born and raised there, city girl. I never wanted to leave Calgary. And growing up, I kind of was a bit of a troublemaker, honestly.
Troublemaker. What does it mean?
It means that I was a bit rebellious as
Okay.
a teenager.
You did
Yeah,
not match with the sort of the constraints of society, the law, like the regulations and laws, structure of society. You did not really find yourself inside this kind of
yeah,
matrix.
yeah. I was more on the rebellious side. Um, yeah, I went from high school into like promo modeling and bartending and doing bottle service and got really wrapped up in that industry, which can get pretty dark. And I had always been kind of connected to the spiritual world because my grandma passed away when I was 13, and she always
Mm.
communicated to me in dreams and was like really a guiding light for me from the other side. And but I was quite asleep and in my patternings and in my ego and whatnot. Um, I went through two very long relationships that were very uh, earth shattering. They, you know, how things crack you open. So I was cracked open in that way and just began after my last relationship, began on to my healing journey and um, moved out to Vancouver to live there because I always wanted to. And I was actually going to pursue being an ultrasound technician. And then,
Okay.
yeah.
But
And
why Vancouver Island? Sorry for the interruption.
so I was in Vancouver. I was still working in the industry and whatnot, and I decided I wanted to go to school to be an ultrasound technician. So I applied to schools and got accepted in a school on Vancouver Island. Moved out to the island, COVID happened, and I decided I wanted nothing to do with the medical industry. Um, and I for a year or two, I would listen to this one woman's past life regressions on YouTube. I'd fall asleep to them and never thought anything of it. I honestly never thought I would find my purpose or something that would really light me up. I was always just kind of like living.
Searching.
Yeah, and then one day I just looked at the little description below, and just so happens she had all the schooling she took to get to where she was, and I started calling around, and yeah, I then started getting hilarious signs. Like I went into this health food store that has this amazing older man who's like an angel, I swear. I was actually researching schools earlier that day, and he goes to me, he's like, "Have you ever tried hypnotherapy?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Mm, mm.
Well, yeah, so that's kind of how it happened. And from there, I studied with Dolores Cannon doing QHHT. I'm not sure if you've heard of it or heard of Dolores Cannon.
Neither,
No?
to be honest, neither.
Okay, so Dolores Cannon is a famous hypnotherapist. She kind of stumbled upon past life regression, just doing regular hypnotherapy. She was doing hypnotherapy in the 1950s on an army base. So
Okay.
yeah, she ended up creating her own technique and passed away in like 2014, but her classes are still recorded. So it's like you get to learn with her when you do her course.
Interesting.
So yeah, I studied with her and then many other amazing hypnotherapists and teachers. And now here we are today.
Feels like you're starting to find your way. It's like you just know it when you know it. It's not always obvious, right?
Oh, when I moved out here, I would cry all the time because I stayed with my parents like my whole life because I felt like I needed to take care of them and my little brother. And I'd have set we had this like kind of like a codependent relationship where felt like really responsible for them. So when I moved out here, I was always like crying and feeling so guilty for being out here and away from them and always being like, I don't know why I'm here. Like, why am I
And
doing
you you were
this?
you you were, you were solo, no?
Yeah. And so then it just goes to show that when you're on the path, I
Mhm.
heard this saying, it's called the invisible path. Actually, it was from my card deck, my oracle card deck. But the invisible path, and when you follow the invisible path, it leads you to your destination, your purpose. And that's like really how it's felt. It's been like just like taking steps, and I wouldn't say like the dark because I'm definitely have been in the dark and I'm no longer in the dark, but
Interesting. So let's step a bit back for the viewers and just try to make things easier, because someone who is not necessarily spiritual, like maybe
yes.
you and I, would
Mm.
not necessarily understand what we're talking about. We're like, what are these crazy people talking about, right? So let's try to make a step back, because first starting with hypnosis, right? Before talking about hypnotherapy, I think you also have some knowledge, I suppose, about hypnosis. It's part of the hypnotherapy.
Mhm.
So I want to understand myself as well, because interesting enough, I've met a Canadian guy, another one, famous one called Mesmer. You must know it, right? You know him? No,
I
Mesmer. You never heard of it?
What is his name?
Mesmer.
No.
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 Anyway, he's a famous he's a stage guy. He does staging. He's like sort of an improviser in a sense. Comes
Mm.
on stage and starts to hypnotize the whole crowd.
Oh,
You
he's a
know,
hypnotherapist, okay.
not,
He's a
I wouldn't call it
stage
therapist, but hypnotizer, I suppose that's what I
he's
call
a
it.
yeah, hypnotist. He's a s that's
Hypnotist,
stage
right?
hypnotist, yeah.
Exactly. So he's a hypnotist, and that's why Mesmer, because Mesmer was a famous, I think, French guy at the time, who was like the idea mesmerizing. The mesmerizing term.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Mhm.
It comes from that. So it means that you're like just
Yeah.
overblown.
Mhm.
And so the guy came to Paris, and I was assisted to his performance a few years ago, before even I started my journey on my path. And yeah, I was amazed. I was like, I was not, I was not sort of hypnotized, but all people around me were doing crazy stuff and following his commands. And people on stage, they were like doing some crazy stuff that he was commanding them. And I was
Mm.
like, how can this be possible? Me, the rational one, the engineer one, I can't understand.
Yeah,
These people are just
analytical.
stupid. They are just stupid to fall into this trap. It's not even a good. And
Mhm.
but now I understand sort of the idea, but I want to hear it from your mouth, from your words. What is
So,
what is hypnosis?
stage hypnosis, gives us in the therapy field of hypnotherapy and hypnosis kind of a bad rap I think it's great to show the power of hypnosis, but we have a lot of people who are scared to try hypnosis
Yeah,
or
exactly. Obviously, yeah.
therapy because they don't want to lose control. They've seen stage hypnosis and that scares them, of course. But when it
But
comes,
how does it work, Aurora? That's more I'm more interested in, you know?
yeah, so
Hypnosis in general, not only stage hypnosis, but
yeah. So how hypnosis works is
uh,
using your own ability to go into a brainwave state that is a trance-like state. So
mm,
there's 4 different brainwave states that we move in and out of all throughout our daily lives. So beta is when you're wide awake, probably right now, and alpha is actually a light trance, and we move in and out of alpha all throughout our day. We go into alpha when we're meditating, when we're driving, when we're focusing on something and tuning everything out, when we're watching TV, when we're listening to music. We go into a trance very easily. So, people who think that they can't be hypnotized, you're actually going in and out of hypnosis all day long.
all day long.
Yeah. And then theta is a deep trance. We go into theta when we're waking up in the morning and when we're falling asleep at night. And then delta is when we're sleeping. But so basically, what we're doing with hypnosis is we're harnessing your own ability to go into a trance by relaxing the body and sometimes confusing the mind so that it releases into a trance, if that makes sense.
Okay. So my question is maybe this, because we talk a lot about the conscious mind and the subconscious. So we're moving more toward the subconscious mind, right? In a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Is this subconscious mind another person? Or is it the same person? Or, is it two different persons or not?
So,
Because the guy who will be hypnotized, he'll be like, I can hear everything, I can see everything, When you go into hypnosis, most of you guys that did, they will see, okay, I could be there, I was there, but I was definitely not in control. There was something else that was controlling everything.
no, with hypnosis, you're always in control. You can stop yourself from saying things if you don't want to disclose what is coming to mind. If you're really participating, it's a 50-50 thing with hypnosis. If you're really participating, then things will flow out your mouth that you forgot about, that you're like, wow, I'm not sure why I said, or I can't believe that came up, or I said that.
Yeah.
But you allow yourself, you're in full control. So I'll just get that out of the way first.
All right.
Second, with the subconscious and conscious mind, basically your subconscious mind is like like the hard drive of a computer, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. So
So conscious is the hard drive, okay?
yeah, so the subconscious is where all your memories, all your beliefs, everything is stored from your childhood, all your programming, your behaviors, everything is stored there, right?
But
And then,
it's not only information in the hard drive, right? It's also processes. For example, if you scream at me from the back, I will run away. For me, this is also
yeah,
subconscious, right?
yeah, subconscious. That's subconscious. Anything that is happening below your conscious level is in your subconscious. So people think that the subconscious is just the brain and the mind, but really your subconscious goes throughout your whole entire body. And that's when we actually find that there's memories and whatnot stored in different parts of the body because your subconscious is through your whole body. Um, and basically, your conscious mind can understand something like, oh, I want to change this. It can direct you to do something, kind of like the mouse. The way I
Yeah.
see it is like the subconscious is the brain, and then the conscious mind is the hand that moves. Okay, if that makes sense. So your conscious mind is taking direction from your subconscious, basically. Anything everything will bubble up from your subconscious mind into your conscious mind. So your conscious mind can have an understanding, okay, I want to make this change. I understand this. I've read this entire book. I understand how things work, why I am a certain way. But then your subconscious mind will like, okay, but go do your programming. This is what your programming is.
Yeah.
So hypnotherapy works with the subconscious mind to change that programming so that your conscious mind and subconscious mind can work together and are congruent, if that makes sense.
I see. Yeah, I see the point. So yeah, it's that's what I call, like I say to my students, and also in my book and so on. I said like there's two kinds of understanding. There is the mental understanding. You understand something mentally, right? Like I understand that 1+1 = 2. But there's an experiential understanding. That's maybe what we call also subconscious understanding. When it goes like so deep that you just feel it, right? You just feel it with your body. You just feel it with your heart, with your mind, with everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is two different kind of ways of seeing the world. And so, how does hypnotherapy actually work? Like what is a hypnotherapy session in general? How does it go for a patient?
Yeah, so there's so many different things that you can get out of hypnotherapy. There's reprogramming your childhood beliefs, traumas. People come to hypnosis to stop smoking, stop vaping, um, stop gambling, lose weight, any kind of addictions. People come to find their purpose, to release anxiety, PTSD. Like the list goes on. It's really when you're working with the subconscious mind, which holds everything. It's kind of like there's anything that you could work with, really. Um, so a hypnotherapy session would look like us having a chat about how your week went. Then we would get really nice and comfortable, relaxed, laid down, kind of sitting up a little bit. And I would take you through something called an induction. The induction was what I was kind of talking to you about earlier, how we get you really relaxed and kind of confuse the conscious mind into a more relaxed state. So one induction that we do is counting down from 100, and you're opening and closing your eyes on odd and even numbers. And it's really good for analytical types like you.
Yeah. You think I'm analytical? Okay, good.
So then we would move through an induction, get you really, really relaxed, and bring you into this deep state of trance or hypnosis. Once your eyes are closed, you're in a trance. You go into the alpha brainwave state pretty quickly. So anyone who thinks that they can't be hypnotized, you go into hypnosis really quickly. It's moving you deeper into that theta brainwave state that we do with the inductions and the deepening. So then once we move through that, there's many different ways that we can go based off of what we're looking to accomplish. So a few different techniques. One of them is age regression. And with age regression, we go actually into the body part that the memory and the feeling is located. And by going into that part, we can actually go right back to the first time that something ever happened, a feeling ever happened.
Like you mean like in the case of a trauma or something like that, right?
Any kind of unwanted feeling or behavior. We go back to the first time it happened because we want to get to the root cause. If we're not getting to the root cause, we're cutting a tree down and there's all these roots still there. It's going to grow back, right? So we want to get it right from the very root. So we go back to the first time it ever happened. We gain a new perspective. This is why gaining a new having your perspective is everything. We gain a new perspective on the situation, gain the learnings, because things come up over and over again for us because our subconscious is trying to get us to get the learnings that weren't received from a certain event. Because this
Okay.
life is
Okay.
all about getting the learnings. That's how we can move on and release it.
On this, I can interpret it from an energetic point of view as well, which is, like there is a blockage, an energy blockage in some point, right? That
Mhm.
comes quite often. For example, you have a lot of neurons in a certain section that reminds you of certain memory, and
Mhm.
you just since you thought about it a lot, just this area got stronger and stronger in terms of energy, right?
Yes,
That
exactly.
you need to release it, sort of, right?
Yeah,
That's
exactly. And it's proven on a scientific level like that. That's what we're working with, is that those neural networks that have gotten really, really, really entangled and like tight
yeah.
there. So we're breaking those neural networks. And that's why you have a recording afterwards, so that you can continue to, because we're building new neural networks, and it's like strengthening muscles. Anyways, so then
Reminds me of AI. In IT,
yeah,
is the machine learning algorithms and so on. That's how you train them. You train an AI.
I know we're kind of
We're
like,
not that different, are we?
yeah, we're not, honestly, it's hilarious. So very interesting. But
Okay.
so yes, so we gain the learnings and the knowledge, and then what's most important is the forgiveness of anyone who is involved, and forgiveness of ourselves, because a lot of the time we're holding on to a lot of grief because we haven't forgiven ourselves. No one was really taught self-love. That's kind of a new thing that we're all learning. So then we have the forgiveness, and with that, we do something called Gestalt therapy. And that's when we have a dialogue between yourself and whoever was involved, until a resolution and forgiveness comes about. Once we have forgiveness, we can move on and then do the awakening. So that's how age regression works. Okay. There's also something called parts therapy that we do. Parts therapy is based off the idea that we have all these different parts within us, and they're all working towards a common goal. Okay.
Yeah. It's a system as well.
Sorry?
I call it a system.
Yeah, it is. Like, it's a little universe in here. Okay.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so they're all working towards a common goal. And this common goal is most of the time to keep you safe, healthy, happy. That's all the subconscious wants to do, is keep you safe and happy and healthy. So they're all working towards this goal. And one part learned that, oh, well, if I do this negative behavior like smoke or whatever, I feel really good. And I think that I'm protecting us, or I'm making us feel better in some way. Well, with parts therapy, what we do is we have a dialogue between that part and the part that wants to change, that wants to continue on the goal in like the right, healthy way. And we have a dialogue, and we have those two parts merge or come to an agreement within your subconscious mind. And yeah,
So while the patient is hypnotized,
yes,
all that.
well, they're hypnosis. So we're working at a subconscious level with that.
Okay.
Sometimes it takes multiple sessions for the parts to come to an agreement. And yeah, it's basically like when you're facing an inner conflict. Like, I'm not sure if you've ever felt like one part of you wanted to do one thing and another part of you wanted to do the other, and you're kind of at it having like an inner war in there.
Just focusing on this case, when one side says something, and mostly the rational sides will just give you arguments, whatever, about some path to follow, and maybe the emotional side will tell you like something else. Does it make more sense to follow the intuition or the logic?
I think always intuition.
Always intuition.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what if doesn't intuition lead you sometimes to like bad relationships, bad projects, bad jobs, bad, I don't know. No?
I think that your intuition always knows the way, because your intuition is like what they call your higher self, or like the part of you that knows your path, that knows what's best for you. And really, from the highest viewpoint, we hate when things happen that are uncomfortable and we don't want to deal with them. But apparently, we came here to experience those things and we needed them to learn and grow
Learn
or
it. Okay.
something. And yeah, so I think that your intuition always leads the right way. Obviously, your logical mind is helpful in protecting you or making proper decisions, but I think that your intuition kind of has all the knowledge that your logical mind wants to have, but your
Okay.
logical mind also is kind of like constricted by your own perspectives and beliefs, if that makes sense.
Limited. Yeah, I see. Okay. Uh, in this particular point, there is what because you talked about something here. You talked about the subconscious wants you to survive. You know, you are a system that survival is very important, right?
Mhm.
That's why it gives you fears of things, right?
Yeah.
But so this is one part of the subconscious, but the other parts is more like high level, more higher self, right?
Mm.
Searching for to challenge yourself, to push your limits. You have a journey in life, and you gotta follow this journey, no matter if you die or not. It doesn't care. So, is it another in Hinduism, for example, we call it like this like there's different labels, but there's this idea of the super mind. You know, this
Super
super
conscious.
mind or supra mind. So, can you detect these kind of two things, two forces in a hypnotherapy session?
Yeah. So Dolores Cannon actually teaches that the subconscious and the higher self, there's no difference between the two, and that your subconscious is all knowing and connected to that super conscious. I think there's levels to it, there's layers to it,
Okay.
but I do think it's all within you.
There's layers of discovering, right? It's like the more you advance on your path, maybe the more you unlock the stages of the game, right?
Yeah,
So
and
because many people are stuck in their sort of survival instinct, like 90% of people in the world are like just still managed by their fears and survival instincts, right? In a sense.
yeah, yeah. I think that the like fight or flight kind of stuff that it sounds like you're
Okay.
mentioning more so is kind of more so in the body rather than the subconscious that we would be dealing with. Um, it's more of like a reaction
Mhm.
based off beliefs, if that makes
Reaction
sense.
based on. Okay.
So like
Yeah.
the subconscious is just like the holder of all of it. But at the deepest level, I think that you have all this knowledge within you. And I think that the subconscious is connected to your higher self, super conscious, all knowing.
Yeah.
And what I find with like past life regressions is that it really like clouds the connection to that information and knowing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask you this: what is past life regression exactly? Because are we talking only about like past life, meaning the years that I had since I was born, or are we
Mhm.
talking like in the Hindu sort of uh, term, which is past lives, right? Which is
Mhm.
reincarnation, and all that, right?
Reincarnation. We're
So,
dealing with different lifetimes.
so
Mhm.
how can we like how does it work? And did some patients typically connect with these past lives in a sense? And what does it bring? What's the point of it all, right?
Yeah, so basically the idea is that we are reincarnating, and I was did not believe in reincarnation before any of this
I mean, some
happened.
people believe in heaven, some in hell. It means everybody believes in whatever they want, but
Yeah,
it's interesting to have all perspectives, you know, like it's
100%. But I just want to say that, like, I did not want to believe that there was such thing as reincarnation because I really liked being Aurora, and I didn't want to believe that I've been anyone else before. But after studying it and doing so many sessions with so many people and really studying Dolores Cannon's work, what she did is she took clients from all over the world, thousands and thousands of people, And when she started having the same people saying the same thing under hypnosis, she would record it, right? That would win a court case, you know? That's evidence right there. The same people from all over the world saying the same thing. So this was in past life regressions. And
saying the same thing. What do you mean, like saying the same thing?
saying the same thing. So they would go into this really deep state where they're connecting to their subconscious or higher selves. And they would actually, so with a past life regression, you're guided through a past lifetime, through the death of that past life, and then onto the other side. And so many different people would get onto the other side and say there was like a council there waiting for them, telling them, you know, giving them all these lessons and learnings, that there was a life review, that all these different things like that. So yeah, it's really interesting.
And did you succeed to connect with your past lives, Aurora? Do you know what you were in the recent life?
Yeah, I've done 2 past life regressions, and they were kind of traumatic, both of them.
Traumatic.
But they made a lot of sense. It's very interesting. So with past life regressions, your higher self, the higher consciousness, super consciousness, whatever you want to call it, is in control. It's going to show you exactly what you want to see, exactly what you need to see. And every time it has to do with this lifetime now. Because the idea with the past lives is that we have these lifetimes and we keep reincarnating until we learn the lessons. So we carry forward these lessons from past lifetimes, and we keep repeating the same lessons until we learn those lessons. So with past life regressions, we go back and learn the lessons, so we're not continuously repeating the same thing over and over again in this lifetime or further lifetimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Every person has its own, every path has its own lesson.
We all have, every soul, yeah, we carry these lessons that.
You believe in a life that's more or less supposed to be traced, in a sense that you have one journey that you need to follow, and if you don't follow it, you'll miss the point? Or is it more?
I think that from Dolores Cannon's work, it's shown that we choose our lifetimes. I had a client actually she was in between lives in the past life regression, and she was like floating around over Earth and looking at all these different families, and then she chose a family to go to. It was really interesting. Yeah, it was really cool.
Reminds me of a work of I don't know if you read the book called I think Seth Speaks. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it, but I've never read it.
Yeah, it's really interesting as well. Like same sort of, you know, like a woman that's connected with some energy, and he speaks through her.
Channeling.
Yeah, exactly, channeling, yeah. And that's and he talks about similar sort of concepts.
I love it. See, this is the thing. Is like people who don't even have like the same information. When people start saying the same things all over the world, it's like, come on,
yeah, but I mean, I agree in a sense.
Yes.
But then I will tell you, look, Jesus, Moses, Muhammad came up with the same sort of message as well. See my point? They also talk about archangels and other things from there, you know. So I think there are many sorts of realities that can be experienced in different ways.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of life, is just this expansion of our realities, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think there's like a collective consciousness that we tap into, and then we all
agree with that.
at the same time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And so what's the point? I come back. What's the point of this past life regressions for someone, you know, anyone pretty much?
Yeah. So with past life regressions, we also find that people who have really strange, intense, unexplained fears will come from past lives where something happened to them, like a fear of water or a fear of elevators or a fear of what have you, and something happened in a past life, and they'll go back to that lifetime and understand that, and then get healing and releasing with the understanding and the learning. They're able to release those fears. There's so many different ways that a past life regression can go, but people come wanting to know what they did in their past lives, or wanting to stop repeating cycles and learn the lesson.
So it's
But
either about healing something or about it's about becoming freer in a sense, right? From your
yeah,
fears.
and just gaining the knowledge. I think that if we had the knowledge of all of our past lives, imagine all of the things we learned over thousands and thousands of lifetimes. If we had all that knowledge, like,
Yeah, it's power.
I feel like the world would be a very different place.
All right, interesting.
Knowledge is power. Yeah, you're right.
I want to dig a bit deeper as well in this idea of maybe channeling and also dreams, lucid dreams, and so on. I mean, it's maybe beyond the field of your expertise, but just your experience with it.
I love
What
it.
is your experience with dreams and with and stuff like that?
So dreams, I'm very active. I'm like, I don't feel like I get much
You're an active
rest
sleeper.
when
You're an
I'm
active sleeper.
sleeping. It's like I am off in what you call the astral realms. I'm doing all sorts of things, and it would be nice if like I could get like a day off here and there and like actually rest. But I feel very awake in my dreams. I have had very lucid dreams where I'm able to control my dreams, and I've experienced a lot of death in my past. Well, in my adult lifetime and teenage. And yeah, the people who have passed away come and visit me in my dreams, and it's very interesting because they'll say things or something, and the next day the strangest things will happen. It's like signs just reaffirming that it was actually them. Because I think that when we're dreaming, we go to a plane of consciousness, maybe some call it the astral realm, that it's like going to the other side. And I think that's why and how people who have crossed over or passed away can visit you in your dreams. And I think it's very real. I think sometimes it's memories and sometimes it's actually them visiting. And I think it's nice because you get to see them again, you get to hug them. And
yeah, I had similar experiences. But it's always nice dreams most of the time. I mean, unless a few times I had like some crazy stuff, but generally it's good signs, or guiding messages or something like that, right?
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And
So,
so this is about the dreams, and channeling, Aurora, channeling while awake, not necessarily while dreaming.
yeah.
How do you do it?
How do you do it?
No, because every person has its own channeling way, right? So maybe, tell us more.
Yeah, so I myself I'm not sure if I channel. I know like I get a lot of like messages or information. I haven't like practiced or been taught exactly how to channel. I do know people who channel, and it's really cool. And have you ever listened or read The Law of One?
The what?
The Law of One.
The Law of One. No.
Yeah. Oh, you gotta listen to it. It's so good. It's a book. Sorry. Yeah, I listened to the audiobook though because it's really long and I like audiobooks. But yeah, basically it's a channeling and the person is under hypnosis while they're channeling. they're channeling someone, beings who call themselves Ra, which is one of the gods from Egypt. Really cool. I forget which
Yeah.
one, you know?
There are many Egyptian gods, but I don't know.
Yeah. So, and they basically explain how the pyramids were built, how crystals work, how reincarnation works, how the universe, it's really cool. But basically channeling, is, I, my understanding of it, you need to have like a clear, to fully like go into like straight up channeling where you're kind of like your consciousness is aside and you're bringing through another consciousness. um you have to go into a trance, really, honestly.
Yeah, it's a trance. It's a deep trance.
Yeah, and which is
But
hypnosis.
you're still like sort of present to remember the messages, and there is a consciousness in there. It's not only like, you know.
Yeah, it's like you're sitting aside,
Yeah,
and
you're watching, observing the thing.
yeah, and that's what I have my clients do for during like past life regressions. If we speak with the subconscious or higher self, it's like the conscious mind will sometimes come and like try and like pick apart what's happening, and it's like just allow yourself to like sit to the side and just listen to what's coming through. And I think that's a really great practice if you're wanting to learn how to channel, is just like a, sitting to the side and
Yeah,
allowing messages to come through, and just asking that they're of the highest.
interesting.
Yeah.
There are many interesting topics in this area. No, but it's true. Okay, so let's try to wrap up this talk, Aurora, with some tips on your side. I mean, I suppose you learned so many things in the first 20-30 years of your life. So what are the main, like, if you have to share like 2-3 lessons with the audience, with the viewers, not necessarily how to hypnotize yourself, but that's another level, but something like practical that they can apply in order to walk their spiritual path, in order to discover new things and just not be stubborn to what is reality and thinking that everything is just matter and solid and there is nothing else.
Mhm. Oh yeah, I got a lot.
You get a lot?
Yeah.
Okay, just 3, 4. Let's make it 4 if you want.
Number one, this is the most
Okay.
important one, I think, is self-love. Learning to love yourself. And a huge part of learning to love ourselves is learning to reparent ourselves. So the way I teach my clients and anyone that needs it is that treating yourself the way you would the little you, like picturing the little 3-year-old you, and just when you're having uncomfortable feelings, your mind is at war, like coming to that part of you that you want to be like, shut the fuck up, or like, like that part of you that's pissing you off or whatever, or the part of you that's feeling sad and wants to stay on the fucking couch all day. Coming to that part of you and just being like, hey, like, it's okay. It's okay that you're angry. I'm here for you. And just like talking to yourself the way you would that little you.
Isn't it some Buddhists would call this ego? Isn't it part of the ego sort of mania?
Um, I guess like I think like the ego is like a very like wide, because then there's the shadow, and I just, a lot of people really got behind like killing the ego, like starve the
Yeah,
ego, kill the ego. It's like
yeah.
that's a part of you, and that part of you is actually doing everything it can to try and protect you and keep you safe. So for you to be like, fuck you, like kill it, like starve it, it's like you're doing that to yourself. That's a part of you.
Yeah.
That's a part of you. No matter how much you try and starve and kill and whatever, it's a part of you. And it's a scared part of you that needs love too. So the greatest thing you could do is offering that part of you love and befriending the ego.
Okay, interesting.
Because when it's trying to like fight to like do things that you don't want it to do or what have you, to turn to it and say, it's okay, you're feeling this way, I love you anyways. It's like it's just like it's like okay, wow, thank
Interesting.
you, you know.
Okay,
It's
second one.
that inner union, that inner union.
I agree with that. Some people call it the roommates in the head. Like you have different parts of you that you need to match, right? So it's about coexisting rather than fighting all the time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I never heard that one, but that's great.
Yeah. Second tip.
Okay. Ooh, yeah. This has been a big lesson for me too, is that your fear is probably going to lead you to your highest timeline. So instead of seeing the block and quitting, go through it.
Okay, interesting. Push to the comfort zone.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, obviously, like, don't do things that are like risking your life. But if you're scared of doing something that it will probably be good for you, you should probably do it.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, last tip. I'm not gonna push your limits more than that.
Are you really sad? Are you really sad, or are you hanging on to sadness?
Such a nice play of words. How do you define how do
So
you define it?
it's like this was like huge and life changing for me, because I was like I would listen to sad music. I held on to grief. Like when people passed away, I held, like, I felt like I was sad all the time. And I realized that I was hanging on to my sadness as like who I was.
It
And
was your identity, sort of.
yeah, so it's like, take a step back and like see, are you identifying with a feeling that isn't what you are? It's just a feeling. It's just meant to be felt and then released and moved through. That
Interesting.
changed my life.
Okay,
Because
sounds good.
now that allows you to remember that you have the choice. You don't have to be sad all the time.
We always have a choice, aren't we?
Exactly. And sometimes we forget that. Yeah.
Okay, Aurora, thank you so much for sharing all these kind of valuable insights, in my opinion. That's hopefully, ultimately, again, it's not only, I mean, no matter what how much you listen to videos and so on, if you don't experience them yourself, it's hard to understand all that, right? So it's part. These are just tips to tell you that there is something else that you need to experiment, and it's everyone has to take its own journey, right? It's not
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
exactly. Or when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Yeah.
Okay, Aurora, thank you so much for this podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you
having
for being
me.
here.